hold on, let me click on the, there we go. Ta-da! Okay,
Cool.
that is, that's just to keep me on a path. Otherwise, I can ramble and ramble and ramble. So just let me know.
Cool. So let's start like in a minute. So,
Yeah, no
and
problem.
then, yeah, and then we could just start.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, wait, so you used
Anything?
to do like broker stuff as well? Or is that kind of your job still kind of?
That is my job still. It's kind of a weird position, what I'm doing now, because I do have a broker's license. So I am in-house insofar as I'm the only one who's a broker and a Costco employee in the US. We have
Oh,
two others the others would be Hannah, she does Korea, she does the whole country of Korea, and then Mickey does Taiwan. So there's two other ladies in this business in the whole company, and they're the only ones that are Costco employees and brokers. So it's kind of a different role for me, but it's kind of new. Just I'll go into it in a minute, but
cool. Yeah, and like if like just whenever you want, we could probably just start right now, and then more people will join if like they can hop.
okay, I will go for it. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for coming to this little presentation and being interested in real estate. I'll go over a little bit, like this is not what I started, but I'll go over what my job is. Basically, as I said earlier, I'm the director of real estate for Costco for the Southwest US, which means I find new markets, new locations, and then I work with my team to purchase the land, get the entitlements, build the project. So pretty much everything from dirt to selling toilet paper. And I have worked for Costco for 12 years. So I have this little slide here because I did not wake up one day when I was a little girl and say, oh my God, I want to be a real estate broker. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever set out to do this. My original goal was to be a city planner and help create great places for everyone to live and leave the office every day at 5 p.m. Those were like my two big things. Part of it is my dad's family is from East LA, and I grew up in Huntington Beach, and everyone gave me a hard time because of that, because I got to live by the beach. And so my idea was to make all places great. So that's why I wanted to be a city planner. I graduated from UCI. My husband and I graduated together in 2002, which doesn't seem like a long time ago for me, but I'm sure that seems like forever. As my daughter reminded me that I lived in a time without email, and that's super weird. So I got a degree in EAD with a minor in business. I started off as a city planner right away before I took my last final. I started working full time. So like March of 2002. I did that for a little while, and I just really felt like I wasn't making that difference that I wanted to make. I felt like everything was not based on merit, but based on how long you're sitting in the chair. And it was just not a pace that worked with me. It works great for my husband. He is still a city planner. He's a really, really good city planner. He's worked for Newport Beach, I think something like 18 years, but it wasn't for me. So at that point, I knew I had to do something different. So I went back and got my master's degree. Sorry, I did get it from Cal State Fullerton because I was paying for it and I couldn't afford it from UCI. So not saying one way or another. I did the fully employed MBA program. So I went to school at night, got my master's degree. And right about the time I graduated, I got a job as a consultant for, again, I was still trying to make the world a better place. So I was working for Fusco Engineering in Irvine because they were the green builders. And I really I said, okay, well, if I can't make the difference as a planner, I can maybe make it as difference as a consultant because I can tell people how things should be built. And they do a lot of really cool things. As I was basically just doing the permitting and the entitlement because of my background. But, you know, a lot of really cool stuff happens in civil engineering, water quality, green building, all that stuff. And then the crash happened. So kind of funny. Well, funny now because it didn't affect me that much. But yeah, I was the only person to get laid off while on maternity leave. I came back to show all my, you know, I had my daughter in 2007, August 2007. I came back and my entire team was gone. So that was a little shocking, but kind of worked out in the long run. About 3 weeks later, my boss, who was my boss at the civil engineering firm, called the head of Costco, because Costco was our client at the time, and said, you know, I heard you guys are down a development director. I have this person. She's, you know, really great. She's a generalist. Maybe you can use her. So I was sitting at home with my daughter was probably like 6 weeks old, and the phone rings, and it's the vice president of Costco. And at that time, he seemed super scary and, you know, this big, important guy. And here I am with this baby that was like farting. I mean, well, babies have this weird thing when they're like 6 weeks old, they fart really loud. And I was having this conversation and just thinking to myself, oh my God, I hope he doesn't think that's me, because she was just exploding. So that's what I remember from that, and being super intimidated. But yeah, so he flew down from Washington. He met me and he said, hey, do you want to be, at the time it was manager of real estate. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. I just had a baby, whatever. And he actually convinced me. I think I was the only one to ever say no to that, to my boss. It was my boss, Jackie Frank. Super charismatic. Everybody just, you know, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. Everyone's like, what, are you crazy? You were unemployed. You had a baby. You know, they offered you a manager position. But eventually he talked me into it. You know, I made a deal. I said, my kids are always going to be number one. So just so you know, I'm not going to be there until 9 o'clock at night. We used to have an office in Orange overlooking Disneyland. And I said, I am not going to watch the Disneyland fireworks. I'll tell you that. No, I'm not going to be that person. So he agreed, and that's where I started. So I started as manager of real estate development, got promoted to director, basically doing all the entitlements and the project management. And then about 5 years ago, we had a broker. He wasn't the nicest person. I'll just be straight out. He'll be the first to tell you he wasn't the nicest person in the world. But one day he came in my office and he said, hey, you're a good writer. Why don't you take a stab at this? And he basically threw his report at me and said, you know, why don't you take a chance at this? And so I started helping him with his, what we call deal memos. So every broker writes a memo and it basically summarizes your deal, blah, blah, blah. And little by little, as I helped him, I started seeing, like, other than just grammar, because he was the worst writer in the world, I started seeing like flaws, and it was almost like learning a second language. So from that, he said, well, you know, I'm old, because he was like 67. And he says, why don't you take over my job? So I was like, really? Like, that was so weird, because there was nobody else. There's no other females. There was no one else under 55 probably. And so I started training. So in my spare time as a working mom, I studied all the classes. I took my agent's exam, and I studied all the classes. I passed my agent's exam. Then in the next 2 years, I studied and took my broker's exam, and now I get to pick the properties, and I am the broker of record for all the deals in the Southwest. So that is kind of my evolution. I'll kind of talk about some other things and what each job is. If I get too technical, just shout it out, or you can do the chat function. Just be like, hey, I don't know what this means or that means, and I can just see it on I'm pretty sure, because my mom helped me practice this, so hopefully. So again, I'm just going to go into real estate. Is that cool? Is that kind of what you guys want to talk about? the different jobs in real estate, different things that you can do, because obviously you guys all like real estate. So there's a lot of different positions. It's not just one or two things. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know about before I started this. So again, there's sales. Most people, when they think of real estate, they think of sales. You help someone buy a house, sell a house, apartment building, whatever the case may be. And then you would have to be a broker or an agent. And then on the other side of that, there is development. So that is on the left-hand side, you see, I don't know if it's on the left-hand side for you, but you take a piece of land and you say, you know what would look good there? A hotel or a apartment complex or whatever the case may be. Or in some cases, redevelopment, which is, I like to advocate because redevelopment is just a more environmentally sustainable, efficient way to build. Just gonna throw that out there, but those are kind of the two things. So I'm gonna go into both of them because I do both of them now, so focus on my kids. Okay, I know you guys are pretty familiar with the difference between brokers and agents, or do you want me to go over that? Anybody?
Probably just briefly
Yeah,
go
can
over
you
it.
go over it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that sounds
because
good.
I didn't understand it. And if anybody wants the books, I have them all. So basically I didn't know the difference between a broker and an agent. When I bought my first property, I went through an agent. I had no idea that someone else was getting half of that commission or a portion of that commission. I didn't know that she has to work for a broker. So basically anyone who represents a third party. So for example, I represent Costco, or if I'm in Colorado, my broker, John, represents me buying a property from somebody else. So you can anybody can walk into an open house and buy a piece of property on behalf of yourself. But if you're buying it for anyone that you're not related to, I don't know if you can verify, then you have to have a license. And it's any kind of real estate, even a mobile home. So, and they take it super seriously. So basically that's what it is. So the broker is able to buy and sell real estate, but you're only licensed in that state. So I'm licensed in California. Like I said, I have brokers in Nevada, Arizona, and all the different states I do business in, sorry. And I talk super fast, so if I'm talking too fast, just chat me, slow down. So as I was saying, everybody has to start as an agent. So I had to take the agent's exam. I had to pass 3 classes, and then you go to this testing center. It's kind of like your SATs or one of those exams where you show up, they make you go like this to make sure you're not like smuggling answers in. You take it on a computer, and then as you walk out, they give you a piece of paper. So 3 classes, you pass the classes, you show them proof. You have to be under the supervision of basically a real estate office. And then once you pass your agent exam, you can start applying your broker's exam. Again, the difference really is agent has to share their commission with their supervising broker, which is the bad part. The bad part about being a broker is you have legal responsibility over your agents. If your agent does something ridiculous like racially steer someone into a different neighborhood, that's a big thing, don't ever do that. Or you know, whatever, hiding commissions or dual agency, whatever it is, that broker will be responsible for your agents doing something wrong. So I would recommend, if you're gonna go this route, go for the broker route, because if you're smart enough to graduate from UCI, you're smart enough to pass this exam. It's just a little more effort, but again, you have to, oh, here's this one. Anyway, here is what a broker does every day, because I mean, you can say a lot of words, but what you really do and what you spend your day doing is kind of what you want to know. So basically, you do a lot of real estate tours, which means you have to show either your seller or your buyer the property. This is what we call the showtime, because it's the major, and you get so many. Brokers are an odd bunch, I'll be honest with you. They're very adrenaline, they're a little bit of adrenaline junkies. This is your showtime. You got to know everything. You have to show it. You get one chance to show your property, whatever it may be, or your market in my case. You know, when I go on a tour, I'm looking at the entire market. And of course, the larger your territory is, the more you travel. So I have a lot of airline points, so just point that out. I haven't paid for airfare in a very long time. But then the TSA knows me by first name, so it's a trade-off, whatever you want to do. You do a lot of negotiating, so that means you basically set up calls, meetings between the two parties. And you say, this person wants X, this person wants Y. You have to get them to agree. It's your job. So that's a big piece of it. If you're good with people, great. If you're a great negotiator, like my youngest daughter is terrifyingly a good negotiator, great. And then there comes the part that I am not good at, I'll be honest with you, it's the contracts. You have to work with the purchase agreement and lease agreement, all that fun stuff. That's where I'm not a technical person. I'm a very big picture person. I'm great at the tours. I'm not great at the contracts. And you hang out with so many lawyers. Or you could become a contract attorney if you so desire, but it's a lot of technical. You know, what happens if you don't close? What happens? All of that stuff, you'll have the classes on that. All of that stuff is your responsibility. And at the end of the day, your overall responsibility is to follow up and make sure it closes. Doesn't close, you don't get paid. So it's reminding people to return their comments, contracts, it's all of that stuff. It's you. So if this sounds great for you, this is kind of if that's where you want to go with your career, this is kind of my little suggestions, because people are always asking me, you know, what can I do? I get anyone I ever work with who has a daughter or a female who wants to go into real estate, they always come to me. I mean, people all over, because yeah, so I get a lot of people that they just don't know where to start. So again, if you want to do this, find a brokerage firm. Every broker that I work with, and most of my brokers have been doing, most of my local guys have been doing this 30 years, they all have an apprentice. Pat being the best one. If you want to meet Pat, he's in Denver and he's very nice. But what they do basically is they provide the data for their, what would you call it, their mentor broker. And that's how you start off. You follow someone around, you provide the data, you provide the assistance. You do get coffee sometimes. Sorry, that's life. Here's some examples of some of the brokerage firms. JLL has the best parties ever. Sorry. They rent out the top of this, what is it, the Cromwell in Las Vegas? Anyways, CBRE, Colliers, there's a lot of big brokerage firms. And again, just, you can go on their website. Every single one of those companies will have information about what they're looking for. So look at what the entry requirements are, and always, always, always be prepared. Another thing that I think is huge is joining a professional group. Because I'm in commercial real estate, I don't know what the residential ones are, I'm sorry, but the big one for us is ICSC. When I talk about those parties, those are ICSC parties. All of the brokers get together in one place, and it's very intense. And basically, you have meetings every 30 minutes for 3 days, but it's getting everyone from around the country into one place. So it's cool. You just have to get used to the intensity of most people in that place. But ICSC has a next generation program, so it's catered. Always, always, always use your student discount, because that is a huge difference. A lot of them are even free. Otherwise, like, some of these events are $800. So while you're a student, sign up for the workshops, sign up for the networking events. There's a lot of really, really good information. Even when I go to them, I learn things that I didn't know before. So ICSC, if you like commercial, Urban Land Institute is something that I did a little while ago before I turned 35. They have a young leaders group where they have different projects, and you can kind of connect with other young professionals. We did a project in Tustin where we designed housing for homeless veterans. And it was really cool because they pair you with like 6 other people from different fields, and everybody has something to offer. So I thought that was really cool. Again, if you want, especially if you want to go into, there's a lot more residential in ULI, or if you want to be a consultant. If you want to be a broker, ICSC, but if you're not sure and you may want to be a consultant, I would say definitely check out the ULI website. So those are 2 things that I did when I was younger, and so on. So that's brokerage. Does anyone have any more questions about brokerage or being a broker? Feel free to shout it out. Nothing? Okay. So here's what I do as well. Basically, I am also a real estate director. And the question that we ask is, where should we go? Flip this here. Basically, a real estate director is someone who's in-house with the company. So this could be, I can tell you the companies because I've all talked to them. Amazon, Amazon has that position, Facebook, Google, what are the other ones I've talked to? Trader Joe's, used to be Whole Foods, but they're not really expanding anymore. Anyways, all these companies have either a real estate director, real estate VP, manager, whatever you call it, and they find new locations for the company. So basically you have one, versus a broker has many clients, you would have one client. So I am 100% Costco all the time. I never get tired of saying the word Costco 50 times a day. But I do love it. I really do believe in what I do. I love the company I work for. That's probably a big piece of it. If you're going to do this route, make sure it's a good company, because it can be hit or miss. I've known some people that worked for companies that they were really, really unhappy with. Not a lot of these jobs, but they are pretty cool when you can get them, and they're usually kind of long term. I just put an example here from maybe a tech company that I dealt with. An example of an assignment, they want you to find a new place for a server farm. And they may give you, okay, you need to find somewhere where electricity and land are cheap, access to fiber optics. Some companies really want you to try to find something with renewable energy. Wind power. I think Oregon has a bunch of wind power. Sweden has a huge geothermal. So things like that. You could go over the globe looking for something like that, if you like Facebook. Or you can, find a new campus location for employees, and then you'll be looking for different items like access to people with talent. So example, Boulder, Colorado is one of the leading communities for tech companies, because they have they have the youngest population and they have the highest educated. I believe it's 53% of people in Boulder have a BA or higher, versus the rest of the country is like 33. So things like that, like whatever your specialty is, you learn that specialty. So that's kind of the gist of it. Again, big piece of it is location analysis. So the first question they're going to ask you is, again, if you're an in-house person, do you need another location? I mean, I pretty much can drop anywhere and say Costco's too busy, but then that's our biggest problem, right? You go to Costco, the lines are too long, there's no parking, blah, 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 blah. So that's the first question they'll ask you. So a background in economics is helpful, or at least a general ability to interpret economic data. Some companies, depending on how big your company is, they may already have this answered for you. So if you're Amazon, they already know. They already know where they need to be. But if you're a smaller company, say Vans, for example, is another company of very nice people. They may say, hey, here's our data. You tell us where we need to expand. So you need to be able to, at least generally be able to interpret maps, data, sales data, etc., which takes a little bit of time. I didn't know it 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You learn it like anything else. The second question you kind of have to answer, and this is like the number one place to start, is what is your next best market? So how I like to do this is I like to look at my winners and my losers. So if I'm going into Denver, just I happen to have 9 units in Denver. I'm going to look at my best market, which is Tinmouth, which I built, and then I'm going to look at my worst. I won't tell you which one the worst is, but I can tell you why. And then you figure out why. So what makes a good Lord, my kid's school. What makes, a good market? So that's kind of where I start. And then you want to define who are your customers? Like, who are you looking for? So a map like the one I have right here will tell you where people live, but you have to know which data to use. So depending on who you work for, it's what you're looking for. I'm being in Costco, I'm looking for people who own a home and have the income, because we are volume based. So I'm looking for a lot of people. I'm looking for about 250,000 people within a 20-minute drive time, just FYI. And I'm going to look for a little bit higher income, because if you're higher income, you're going to be able to pay the membership fee to buy nicer merchandise. Just FYI, rich people still love to save money, more so probably even than middle income people. Rich people spend a lot of money. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking for. So you're going to dig into demographic maps. And does anybody have any kind of understand what a demographic map is? Okay, I can jump on the other page, but and then you're going to define your trade area, which is really more of an art than a science. You're going to look at the maps, define natural hazards. For example, do people drive across a river? I live in Tustin, and I'll just say it. People in Tustin do not cross the 55. I don't know. I didn't think it was true until I moved here. Just people in Tustin don't cross the 55 to shop in Santa Ana. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. But you have to know things like that. So natural barriers and so on and so forth. And then you're going to define your trade area. Then I'll go into this a little bit, but you're going to find, so you got your trade area, you got your market, you know where you want to go. And then you're going to dig into your site that best fits your needs. And I'll go into, that's really going to be based on traffic, circulation, drive times, and then of course budget, which is always fun. So this is kind of the stats that I use. On your right, you have a population density map. Since I'm a bulk retailer, I need a lot of people. As much as I love getting letters from people in Elizabethtown, Colorado, and there's 8,000 people in Elizabethtown, by the way, nicest people in the world. They would love a Costco. I get about 15 to 30 letters a day of people who want a Costco in their community. But the biggest thing is I can't put a Costco with 8,000 people. It just won't support it. And if you're a Home Depot or Lowe's or any of them, you can't either. So population density is huge, like the one here. So what you're going to be looking for is you're going to want to be where, I'm pointing like you guys can see, you're going to be where the red is. So obviously you're not going to want to go where there's one person per square mile. So, but you can't just look at one map. So you've got to really put together the maps. You want to look at density. Most of the times I want to go into a growth community because I want to get in, let the community grow. So I want to get in cheap, and then I want the community to grow around me. So some of the biggest growth communities in the country right now, Phoenix is #1. I don't get it because I don't like to be hot, but Phoenix is super duper hot right now, exploding. San Antonio, Idaho, I get the Idaho thing. It's really pretty over there. San Antonio is huge. Denver is one of the highest growing communities. All of those, you want to find in those communities, where is the growth happening? Obviously, like I mentioned, income is huge. If you don't have disposable income, you can't shop. So I, as a retailer, that's a huge issue for me. Home value, we found we have a whole demographics department, and they kind of do the analysis on what we're looking for, and they make the maps. These are not my demographers maps because I can't use those, but I just ripped these from the internet. So anyways, and then other companies may use different things, number of businesses, home ownership, education. It really depends what your client or your company is looking for. Like I said, if you're Google, who just picked Boulder, you're going to look for education, age, you're going to want younger people, and then affordability for your employees, which Boulder's not affordable, but they should move the Longmont. Other things, so first you get your map, and then you kind of have an idea where you want to go. Then you really want to do your research. I mean, you have to dig into everything. This is, like I was saying, an area of Denver that is growing incredibly. You want to look at what projects are going in, what infrastructure is the community investing in, new infrastructure that's going to help you down the line. Are the freeways so backed up that nobody goes there? So you have to learn a lot about a lot of things. So like I said, this map is just something I took from Aerotropolis, is what they call this big development out by the airport in Aurora. Economic development agencies, they have a ton of information. So I would always recommend using those, but take into account that they are salespeople. They're basically selling their community to you. So everything they tell you, objective data, fine, good, go for it, but understand that you can't get overhyped because that's their job. So anyways, there's some really cool projects in this area. It's just, again, this is a project that I can tell you about because it's under construction and it's opening on September 24th. Just an example, you can see right here, we picked a site where the big red arrow is. It's right off the freeway. You have a ton of residential. Most of your residential, you want to know where your people are coming from. So most of the residential is coming from the northeast. So you want great access from where your customers are coming from. What you're not seeing here, south end, is a big drop off because there is an Air Force base there. But this is Surprise, Arizona, one of my favorite communities in the world because they are literally just the nicest people you could ever come in contact with. Again, one of those huge growth communities. I think their growth rate is, I think they're like 15%. So 5%, basically, their population increases 3% every year, which is huge for most places. My internet connection is unstable. That's not good, but okay. If I disappear, apologies. No, it looks like, okay. So anyways, any questions about analysis, maps, location? You gotta really, really like maps.
I have like a quick question on like, because I remember in my town, they were gonna make a Costco like a couple years back, but then I guess like a lot of the local businesses were like protesting against it because but like they ended up making it anyway.
Which
so
town?
like, I think it was Pleasanton, but it was like a neighboring town. I think it was like Livermore or something. I don't know. They're gonna build a Costco there, but I think they passed that anyways. I was just wondering like how much like in terms of like building new Costco's, like how much do you have to communicate with like local, like if like the local like stores don't want like a Costco, like how do you guys go about like that type of process, even though like the population is leaning towards it in a way?
Well, that is a good example. The reason I asked you is because I do know everything about Pleasanton. Pleasanton, there was some pushback. We do get pushback. Obviously, we get a lot. My job is a lot easier than certain other retailers. They get a lot more pushback. In the case of Pleasanton, we did have pushback from a small group. So in that case, we actually went to a vote of the people. And that was my first actual campaign. We did a whole campaign thing and we won.
Oh, cool.
Now, I won the campaign November 2008. No, not 2008. When did the, 2016,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
the
like
day.
3 years ago. Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, so we won. However, same group, they also just took a different technique and sued us and sued us and sued us, and that's why there is no Costco in Pleasant. So there
Oh,
is some of that. Again, I will say we did have. It's always in a mixed bag. You can't make everyone happy. We did make 63% of the people happy, so that was great. But yeah, that's a big part of it, the politics, and I'll jump into that in a little bit, but that's a big piece of the puzzle.
I had a
So
question too.
yeah, go for it.
So like I've noticed like in some areas like there might be like Costco's that are like maybe like really close, like 20 miles or 25, 30 miles sometimes, when sometimes like it might be like almost like a 45 or like 45 minutes or 1 hour drive just to get to one Costco. Like, do you
Mhm.
have like a rule of thumb, like, or maybe not like a rule of thumb because a lot goes into it, but like how close like two Costco's like can be to each other, that type of thing?
Yeah, it really depends on the market. Like I said, I live in Tustin and they're exactly 3 miles apart. So in my old house, I could drive a mile and a half this way and be at a Costco. Mile and a half this way, be in a Costco. They both do really well. It's really more about how many people live in the market. And then we do something what's called a cannibalization analysis. Everybody does it basically by putting in a new unit. This goes back to the sales and so on. How much sales are you going to be taking from the old one? Now, if you have a Costco that's just a miserable shop and people can't get through the door, people can't find parking, the lines are out the door, then it's okay to take a little bit of sales from that unit. If you have a unit that's barely getting by, the last thing you want to do is put one right next to it and take some of those sales to the point where they're not profitable.
Okay.
So you got to factor in all that: profitability, distance, population. It's a lot of stuff. So
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
no problem. I'll just scroll through. And so anyways, so after you've done your analysis, the next big thing you want to do, you've made your choice, you picked your site, you got your market, your site, everything, you got to do your pitch. So that means that you have to tell whoever makes the decisions. In my case, it's our CEO, Craig. You got to basically, I take him out there, we drive the market, we drive past the site, then we sit in the warehouse. Usually you'll see us in the, what is it called, the food court section. And I roll my maps out and I say, okay, look, this is why I want to go here. I think it's a good idea because X, Y, Z. It's super stressful. I'm not going to lie to you. Really, really stressful. But you do it as part of the job. And the biggest thing is you want to be prepared. You want every question he asks. I mean, every once in a while he asks the most, he has some really good questions, but you want to be prepared as you can. You want to know the tax rate in the state that you're in. You want to know how many cars are on Highway 303. You want to know everything. So you want to be prepared, you want to be confident, and you want to be concise, because most decision makers have really, really short attention spans. And I always throw this in because I have a story, but you want to know your audience. I have a sister-in-law who is a consultant, and she loves to tell people what she thinks they should like. And she's really never worked anywhere more than 6 weeks, because nobody cares what the consultant likes. You have to know what's important to the person you're pitching to. So whatever it is you're pitching, you have to research that person and know what's important to them. So that's just my little spiel. I also learned that from the lady that sells wine, the Costco wine lady. She's like the most amazing person ever. If you ask her what she likes to drink, she'll tell you. She says, oh, it doesn't matter. What I like to drink is irrelevant. She is the most, what did they say? She is the most influential person in the beverage industry, but she will never tell you what she likes to drink, because it doesn't matter. It's what your customer likes. So I just learned that from her because I had to give a presentation after her, and it was like following your hero because I really like wine. So anyways, once you get the yes, you got to assemble your team. Like I said, if any of these jobs aren't for you specifically, these are a bunch of other jobs in the real estate industry that you can do. The number one would be development director, which I did before, and I'll kind of walk you through it. Or the project manager. You know, you can be a real estate project manager, development director. It's the same thing. Architects. I have an army of really, really awesome architects, and they are, I have the best team. I really, really like my team. That's my favorite part of my job. Civil engineers, contract attorneys, CEQA attorneys, geotechnical engineers, structural, and of course, entitlement consultant, which is also a career option for many people if you really like politics. So anybody have any questions about team composition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, hello.
Yes. Hi, Lam.
Hi. Hi. I actually want to ask you, what is CEQA attorneys?
Oh, yeah. That's on the next slide. Hold on. I think no. Oh, California Environmental Quality Act, which I have a whole other slide on that. But it's basically the law in California that says every project has to be analyzed for all potential environmental impacts. And I can go into that because I have an EIR that's, I have one EIR in process and the one in Pleasanton that's being sued for. So there you go.
All right. Thank you.
Can't talk about it probably. All right, site plans. A lot of the things you're going to deal with, you're going to have to be really, really comfortable with site plans. This is my Dallas warehouse. I think I got project of the year for this one. That's why it's so important aside from other things, but it's super cute. It's, you know, you can kind of see, you got to be able to put your entrance at the most convenient spot, put your parking in the most convenient spot, access, all of those things. Again, you're going to get input from all your team members. Oh, I forgot the traffic engineer. If you like to be a traffic engineer, go for it. And then again, as a team leader, you'll be required to review it, comment on it, approve it, and then you have to be the advocate. Once you approve something, you really have to put yourself on the line. So, anything about site plans?
Do you guys ever like look back at your site plans and correct them, or like try to make improvements to old properties that like you might have made mistakes on?
Oh my God, all the time. All the time. I'm doing it in Eastvale right now. Again, it's really hard. We have about, I mean, an average Costco can be anywhere between 3,000 and 6,000 people a day. So even the best traffic engineers, and I will say my traffic engineers are my favorites. You know, sometimes you just can't predict people's behavior. So we often do what's called a 6-month post-mortem review. So I'll send the traffic engineer out there and she'll sit in the parking lot and she'll see what the problems are. Are people queuing is when they back up. Are people queuing in a certain area? Are people behaving, you know, what intersections are causing problems? So we do that a lot, mainly with traffic, sometimes with other issues as well. I can't really touch the building for the most part, but we make a lot of parking lot modifications, even sometimes going back in and adding a signal. Because the biggest thing is at Costco, people pay to shop there, so you can't really have a bad experience. I mean, why would someone pay to shop somewhere if it's a terrible experience? So we'll often go back and fix things, and then hopefully my team learns from their mistakes, or else, you know. So.
Thank you.
No problem. Anything else on site plans? Okay.
I have a question in general. So like,
Yeah.
what are some of the most common, I guess, like reasons that like a Costco location doesn't get approved? Like you talked about like pitching a site, but like what are some like things that like are that like from like all the site pitches you've done, like what are some of the more common reasons of why like that location doesn't get approved?
Sometimes you just don't have enough people in the trade area. Again, if it's, give a small, 100,000 people within a 20-minute drive time, not gonna happen. It's just not enough people to support it. A lot of thing is, for us, like I do San Diego as well, it's taking too much sales away from another unit. So they'll just say, no, that's too much. Or Texas, that's a huge issue in Texas. You know, taking too much sales. Price tag, San Diego, big. I got some big ticket items. Those are the main causes: budget, trade area, and then cannibalization. So, yeah. All right. So here's that CEQA stuff again. Once you have your project, you have your site, you've designed it the way you think is fantastic, great. Someone else is going to tell you it's not. So once you have your project, you got your internal approvals, you have what you think is the best possible layout. Now you get to open it up to everybody to criticize, meaning the entire community can come in and say, that's stupid. Why did you do it that way? That doesn't, you know. And they do. I have had a lot of people tell me, great example. Like I said, I'm from Huntington Beach. You guys are all in Irvine, so you probably know where Huntington Beach is. The Bellaterra Costco was one of my first ones. And it's only 10 acres. So it was a really, really tight squeeze. Usually we use about 16 acres. So it's like 2/3 the size of a normal Costco. And I had a warehouse manager told me that, who worked there, it was the stupidest design ever because the gas station really belonged over there, not here. And I was like, okay, well, that property is owned by Southern California Edison and it's under a huge guy wire. So you can't put a gas station under an electrical wire. You know, like nobody knows all of the things that go into it, but they're more than happy to tell you what you did wrong. So just thick skin is good. So basically, most projects are going to require some type of community plan, use permit, mapping, rezone, whatever. So you're going to prepare your application, and then there's the CEQA review, which is again a huge thing in California. Most projects in California are going to take upwards of 5 to 7 years, versus a project in Arizona, Texas, Colorado, you could be open in 2. So that's a lot. I mean, I really believe very strongly in CEQA. I think it's really important that people build the correct way. There's just some people that abuse the system. But it just means you have to go to dozens and dozens of planning commission meetings. As you were saying, I could tell you every restaurant in Pleasanton because I have been there so many times. Nicest people in the world, but I've probably been there 30 times in the last, I don't know, 3 years. Not a bad, it's an hour and 10-minute flight, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And if you do ever go there, the Rose Hotel is awesome. So anything else about if anyone wants to talk about becoming a city planner? Again, it wasn't for me, doesn't mean it's not for you. My husband does very good at it, but he's also a detail person and I am not. Okay, that's approvals and permitting. Again, I just threw this on here. This is my Surprise Arizona project, not only because I love it, but construction administration is another potential career if you like budgets and schedules. That's really for you. I'm just happy that those people exist. I don't want to do it. And then of course, at the end of the project, you have your grand opening where you get to be a rock star for one night, kind of. And then everyone will tell you what you should have done instead of that. That is my Dallas warehouse. It's super urban. It's not for everybody. Our CEO really likes that building. I like the plaza in the front, so.
It's really nice.
That is, thank you, I like it. It's a good photo too. We have one of our architects is like a photographer in his spare time. So again, and I have just general, anything else about the whole process and the career options, anything like that? Okay, you guys are super quiet. All right. Anyway, this is just my general knowledge. Be nice to everyone because it's actually a really small industry and you will run into people again. And if it's me, I will call you out in front of everybody because I'm just like that. I've had a lot of people, like when I was an assistant planner, and they're just mean, like just nasty, mean. And then you know what? 5-10 years later, you'll see that person again. And yeah, I got a lot of stories like that. Or a certain council person from a large Texas city that I ran into at ICSC and was super rude because I was eating with my secretaries and thought that I was like not an important person. My meeting was the next day with him, asking us to build a location in his city. You just never know. So that is my general from everything I've learned here. The other thing is I was mentioning about new opportunities. Everybody in my company, like I said, I was the only one picked to do the broker thing over some other people that had been there longer. The reason was because literally I chose to work with Steve, who just asked me to fix his deal memos. You know, he wasn't the most pleasant person. He'll tell you that he's not a pleasant person, especially when he's hungry. He's really unpleasant. But, you know, I went out of my way and I learned something different, totally different than my original career. And that's the path that opened up. So sometimes you think you want to do this and that's all I want to do. And I have to stay on that path and I have to only do this. But, you know, I really would encourage people, if something comes up and it's outside of your expertise, just do it. Do it. And worst case, if you hate it, then you totally know what you hate. Because like I said, this is not where I decided to end up, but it's not a bad gig. And then of course be flexible. Like I said, that kind of falls into it. So that's just my general knowledge of my career path and the weird voyage it's been. Any questions? Anyone else want to talk for a minute?
I have a question about like what does like Costco offer to their employees? That's like
warehouse employees or like me employees?
Just like corporate employees, I guess, like in general.
Well, the biggest deal, and that's what I get to talk about in new communities, is we pay a livable wage to all the warehouse employees, and everybody gets benefits. And the benefits are really good. I don't have the stats on me, but it's, you know, gosh, what do they start people out, it's $13 an hour versus whatever the minimum wage is in that community. And you can be a cashier making $56,000 a year in just a couple of years. And full benefits for you, your, what is the proper word? Partner of choice and your children. Everybody gets covered. And it's really nice. I have $3 prescriptions. I can cover my whole family for $50 a month, $50 a check, which is pretty good. Again, there's everybody with the exception of real estate because it's kind of a specialty. Everybody gets promoted from within. So every VP, SVP, all those guys, every single one of them pushed carts at one point in their career, which is kind of cool because everybody understands each other. When I started this job, I had to go, even as being in real estate, which has nothing to do with anything in the warehouse really. I mean, as far as I had to go into the warehouse and do every single job for a day. I went in at 5 a.m. and did unloading all the trucks, not physically, but I had to inventory it and so on. I made pizzas, I did merchandising, I did cashier, I mean, every single job, because then oftentimes the big part of my role is I go into new communities and I have to be the face of Costco. I did have to hold a golden shovel once. I didn't like it. It was terribly embarrassing, but you know, you're the face and you have to be able to answer questions, all kinds of random questions. So we do a lot of cross training. We have once a quarter, all of the brokers, directors from all over the world, we meet up together. So that means the guy from Australia, UK, Taiwan, everybody, we all get together and we do cross training. So we'll have somebody from quality control come in and teach us about what they do, or people from the jewelry department, and we learn all about everything. So it's, the one thing I do like about it is it's super, I mean, everybody's equally important. Nobody's better than anybody else for the most part. I mean, our old founder, Jeff Brotman, he would have to give everybody their coffee. So when we would travel, he would ask you what you wanted, use his Starbucks card, and then he would physically hand you your coffee. So like a lot of companies you hear about these, you know, people at the top and, you know, they're so important. It's not like that. You know, that's what I like about it. And everybody does get treated pretty darn well.
I have a question, Jenifer.
Yeah.
So, like, beside working in commercial real estate, do you invest into real estate yourself? Like,
if I had time, I was just talking about that with my husband. It's been a busy, like I said, I have a 12-year-old. It's been a busy couple of years, but yeah, most of our brokers do. I'm getting there. I really am getting there. But like I have another broker, all of them have second homes. I don't get paid as much as I do, but and then I have another broker. What he does is he buys like small shopping centers. So he owns like 5 Starbucks, and he bought a hotel and rehabbed it into a, yeah. So a lot of people do use those skills outside. I just, you know, kind of putting one foot in front of the other right now. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
I just have just one more question on just like how much grad school, I guess, helped you, because you mentioned you went to Fullerton for it, and like kind of what was your rationale for that, and like how did it help you?
You know, that's a very good question. I would say that it was necessary to get my foot in the door in the beginning. I would say it's not necessary for everybody. I mean, my broker who I mentored under, not the grumpy guy, but the other one, he doesn't have a master's degree, but he also was a broker. Before he got into the Costco gig, he was a broker for 25 years for 7-Eleven. So he worked his way up, whereas I jumped a little bit. My opinion on degrees, and that's probably because of my background, but it's not so much what you have, it's what you do with it. I mean, some of our brokers went to Northwestern and USC, and they just love to talk about it. Whatever, bring in the deals. I mean, doesn't really matter where you went or what you did, just do your job. That's kind of my opinion, is do your job. I don't know, my team members, I have no idea where they went to college. My architect, I do know one of my architects went to Princeton because she was from the same school as my kids, so she's super sweet. But other than that, I think a graduate degree will get your foot in the door. I think networking is really important for most people. I wish I would have done more of that. So I would encourage you while you're at UCI, aside from you using student discounts, which are awesome, and I miss them, but while you're at UCI, I would recommend everybody network a heck of a lot more than I did. I think that really, I was in too much of a hurry. So I would recommend you use those resources. And UCI is a much different school than when I went there. It was a very small school in 2002, and it was good, but now it's great. So you guys should be super proud of where you go, and you should utilize every resource you can, because I know a lot of people that their networking paid off for them, but just don't rely 100%. on it, because that can be obnoxious. So, see, no, anything else? I'm surprised. I don't know how to stop share because I can't find my little.
Hey, Jennifer,
Yes.
I had a question. So earlier in the presentation, you mentioned that when you were trying to install a new warehouse, some of the people in the community disagreed, and you had to go to a vote for the people, vote of the people. How do those people in the community vote, and why would they disagree to having a new Costco built in the area? Or what are some of the reasons they had for disagreeing?
One was a gas station owner. I can say that. That was common knowledge.
That makes sense.
Sometimes a lot of it's traffic. I'll be honest with you. You know, obviously we generate a lot of traffic. In this particular age, a lot of it is, I really try not to put the warehouses too close to residential. I mean, everybody wants to be near a Costco, but maybe not next to it. And I get that. I mean, I've had that situation. So that's a big issue. We actually did have support from the downtown Business Association and the economic, what is that called? Chamber of Commerce. Yes, we did have support from the Chamber of Commerce because we do a lot of business to business, but there are some people that do think that it takes away from small business. So, or it's not consistent with the character. So one of my jobs when I was a planner, I worked for the city of Laguna Beach. Laguna Beach doesn't allow any chains whatsoever in their downtown. They like their, and I totally get it, because Laguna Beach is a cool place if you've ever been there. They really, I mean, I wouldn't put one in the middle of Laguna Beach, but you know, they really like their character. So when Starbucks went into Laguna Beach, everybody came unglued because that's not our character. So those are kind of the issues. I mean, everybody has the right to speak, and that's why you're going to have a lot of public meetings. I mean, everybody, you have to present your project and everybody gets a chance to talk about it. It's their community. So you have to, if you're going to go into this, you have to really be cognizant of that fact, that everybody has the right to speak. And it's your job to give people the facts. But at the end of the day, not everybody's going to like you. And my point is, well, then not everybody has to shop at Costco. But, you know, I've been in here a long time.
Does that mean a representative for the people would cast their vote on whether or not the Costco location should be built?
It was actually it was called Measure M. So it was an initiative that basically said, they were saying that no retailer over 50,000 square feet could go into this location. It was an old Clorox plant in front of a sewage plant. But so yeah, it was a general vote. It was the same day as the presidential election. So when you went to go check your presidential election, you just checked yes or no on that measure. So there's measures, there's initiatives, you know, that's getting more and more popular in California because the process is so slow. Some people can take it straight to the voters. Other retailers who shall remain nameless often do that to get over the people in the neighborhood that don't like them. It's one way to do it. It's a very expensive way, but I had a really good campaign consultant. It was actually a really cool experience.
Thank you.
No problem. See, you get to learn about, the cool thing about real estate, you get to learn about a lot of different things. It's never going to be one thing, because you're going to find a property that has methane on it. So you're going to learn everything about methane and what it does to the ground. Or you're going to have a property that has polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons in your soil or whatever. So you're going to learn everything about polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, or PCE, TCE. So it's really your job as the person who's pitching a project, like any project manager. My dad was a project manager for the Navy. You have to know everything that affects your project. And in the case of real estate, it's land. It's raw land. You're going to learn all about soil and everything. So it's easy though when you buy a house, like you already know. It was really smooth for us here. So, just FYI. still a pain because any purchase is onerous because of contracts, but so anyways, yeah, that's, so if you guys, hopefully I didn't scare you all off. I tend to do that with people. So, and if you, I can give you my email, or I think you have my email, Philip. If anybody has questions after the fact and you want to reach out to me, maybe you don't want to talk about it now, but I'm happy to, like I said, any knowledge that I do have, want people to find something that makes them happy. So, and yeah.
Thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
No
Yeah, thank you. It
problem.
was super
Thank you guys
informative.
for showing up. I would have been sad if nobody would. Like, oh my gosh, I got all prepared. What if nobody shows up? I know there's a lot going on, and I'm sorry. My house is like 1,000 degrees right now. I'm on the top floor, and
It's like really.
and I had to shut my window and apologize that I'm really sweaty. And anyways, well, yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you coming in. Like I said, feel free to reach out. Philip has my contact information, or I don't always check my LinkedIn, but usually if you message me, I will get from there. And hopefully you guys find something that makes you, that you at least enjoy. Like, my job's not always going to make you happy. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't love my job every single day. There are days when I'm like, okay, forget this. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. Unless I want to move out of this house, I guess I got to do this. So it's not the worst thing in the world. There are good days. Like I said, grand openings are fun. Getting your project shot down is not fun. Getting your project, failing to make a deal is not fun. Developers in general are not always the funnest people to work with. What are you gonna do?
Cool. Yeah, but thank you so much. And all of this is like recorded, so if like, I don't know if anybody wants to like watch it, it's gonna be like up there. But yeah.
I didn't swear, so that's great. I was worried about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's really cool because we could record like all our meetings now, and like, cause it's all like, in case anybody misses it and wants to like view it afterwards and stuff like that. So
Yeah, you're
awesome.
very devoted. So, all right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenifer.
Thank you,
Have a good
Jennifer.
night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Jenifer.
But you're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
I don't know how to do this. Where's my bar? Oh.